Good morning. Happy Monday. I will admit yesterday when I didn't broadcast when Maddie was on here, I kind of missed hanging out with y'all. So happy to be back. Hope you guys are waking up to a bright and shiny Monday morning, a new week, a new day. And okay, so today I want you to think, have you ever been in a situation where you've started to feel resentful towards a boss, a coworker, a good friend, a intimate partner, because you felt like you had no room to breathe and you had so much to do and they really didn't understand how much work you were doing and how much you were giving to the relationship, to the situation, to whatever it might have been. And you just started to feel so resentful and started to approach burnout with a relationship or physical or emotional burnout. If you've ever experienced this, pop it down here in the comments. I'm curious what situations come to mind. So, okay, today we're talking about boundaries. We're talking about setting boundaries. And boundaries are, once you figure out how to do it, you're going to be like, why did I not know how to set better boundaries in the past? Because what a boundary is essentially space between you and anything in your life, whether it's a person, a responsibility, a job, is creating a buffer so you actually have time to breathe and can choose what you're doing. So you're not just kind of like taking it in from the end of a fire hose, if you've ever heard that phrase. It's, hey kiddos, good morning, talking about boundaries. So I want to talk about two specific instances of when setting boundaries are important. First, in personal, intimate relationships. Second, at work, and how to do them in a way that's really going to support you and not bug anybody, right? You don't want to set a boundary as like rejection of somebody or something, especially if you aren't intending to reject them. So we're going to do it in a way that supports you and supports the other person or the situation. First, relationships. This is my example. I sleep more than my partner does, and I sleep in longer than my partner does. He gets up at like 6, he goes and meditates, does his stuff. I like to get up at like 8. And what used to happen is he would wake me up when he got up, and it would be like good morning, like it would be a nice wake up, like we're both waking up, I'm gonna say good morning to you before I go and do my thing. And I would get so pissed off. So like, don't you know I have to keep sleeping? And essentially it was affecting our relationship. It sounds silly, but it was. And what I had to do, so there I had to set a boundary. I had to say, hey babe, love you, love saying hi to you in the morning, but what I need is 2 more hours of sleep than you do. So that, okay, when you set a boundary, you always set the positive consequences. You want to share what is going to happen. That's a good thing when you set that boundary. So as I was able to say, I need to sleep for 2 more hours so I can show up more present for our relationship, for my work, for every other part of my life. It's just going to improve my mood and improve my state of mind in my life. And so of course he wants that thing to happen. So he's going to be more likely to say enthusiastically, yes, I can support that boundary. So there are all sorts of things you might want to set a boundary around in your relationship, but essentially it's when you start to feel like this isn't serving me, maybe I need to set a boundary. And then you can think about what are those positive consequences that you can communicate, so whoever you're talking to, whether it's a friend, a partner, whoever, can really, they have your best interest in mind. Most people in our lives really do. And so if we can communicate why it's so important and what the positive outcome will be, they're going to be much more likely to support and respect that boundary. And you're going to have so much more space to take care of yourself, do the things you need to do. Okay, that's the personal example. And then the professional example. So have you ever heard of scope creep? Sounds weird if you haven't, but once you start hearing the term, it becomes familiar very quickly when you're out working in the world. And scope creep essentially means, like, if you had a job description, like your job is to do this analysis, report to your manager once a week, and run this team meeting. It's like when those 3 assignments turn into 10. It's like the scope, the amount of work that you have to do, it's creeping up and up and up and up. That's what scope creep means. So in our professional environments and in our volunteer environments, you may have experienced this where you say, okay, these are the things I'm going to do, and then a week later You're like, how did my job become so insane? Why am I doing so many different things that I did not agree to? So we have to protect ourselves from scope creep. I was just talking to a young woman. She's like 3 years out of school, out of undergrad, and she was saying, my whole first year of working on the job, I had no idea that I could say no to things. And so she ended up on her team. She was working until the early hours of the morning when everyone else was going to bed at like 7, 8 p.m. or signing off of their computers, because they knew to say no to things and that it was okay to say no to things. And I want all of you, if you have not yet figured out how to protect yourself from scope creep, to figure this out early in your career, because this is a lot of what leads to burnout, is people just say yes, like this is my first job, I got to do it all, I cannot say no. But guess what? Your managers know, your bosses know that you're so eager to please, they might just keep giving you stuff until you say no. They're not necessarily going to say, oh, Julia, I think you've had enough work. Let me take that project back. Unfortunately, probably not, unless you have the best manager in the world. So to protect yourself from scope creep, you have to communicate early and often. Because if you're not going to do something, you don't want to come back to your manager the day before it's due and say, hey, I wasn't able to get to this. No, that's when you probably are going to stay up all night and just do it. But also, if it's not going to happen, they're going to be really disappointed and there's no good solution. But if you're able to tell them as soon as they say, hey, can you take on this new responsibility? If as soon as they say that, you say, you know what? I really want to do a great job with everything that I'm doing. Positive consequences, same applies here. So I really want to do a great job with everything I'm doing. I'm working on this big projections project, and if this goes well, then I know it's going to help our business grow. So I'd love to focus my attention there. I really don't have capacity right now. Could we talk about how we could use the rest of our team to get that new assignment done? Positive consequences, communicate immediately. And odds are good that they're going to say, okay, yes, I can find another way to do this. Maybe I can do it. Maybe somebody else on the team can do it. Maybe we can split it up. So communicate immediately. And then the other thing that you can do if they're like, no, there's nobody else on the team who can do this, you are the one who has to do this, then you have to communicate very clearly how much time it's going to take. And you know what I learned in my very first job is that I doubled my projection of how long anything would take, because usually I overestimated how quickly I could do something. If someone's like, hey, can you get me this piece of research by 1 p.m. or something, or sometime today, they would say sometime today. It was like 9 a.m. I'd be like, yes, no problem, I can get it to you by noon. And usually it would end up taking me to like 1 or 2 or something like that. And if I said I'm going to get it to you by noon and I turn it in at 1 or 2, then I end up looking bad. But here's the thing. If I had said, yes, I can get that to you by 5 p.m. tonight, and I turn it in at 1 p.m., I'm going to look like a rock star. It's the same amount of work. I mean, it's the same timeline, but just because I set that expectation, I set that boundary for myself, I said, yeah, I can do it by 5, and then I turned it in at 1, then it makes me look like I did it early, and I overperformed. So always communicate. If someone adds an extra project, just say, yes, I can do that, but I'm going to need like 2 or 3 weeks if it's a big project. And then they know. And then they're the ones making the decision about whether to give it to you, because they're agreeing by you saying it. And if you can, put it into an email, like follow up from the meeting and say, hey, I just wanted to recap what we agreed to. This project, I'll have it done by, Friday, March 14th, whatever. It's probably not actually Friday. And then you have it in email, in writing, then they cannot disagree with you. Right? So it's like documented. So those are my 2 examples of setting healthy boundaries in a personal relationship and in a professional setting. If you're just joining, make sure to go back, watch from the beginning. Boundaries are so important. And at the end of the day, when you set boundaries, you're going to avoid those feelings of resentment and burnout, which are so common in our personal relationships and our professional spaces. But at the end of the day, it's on us to make sure that we don't feel those things. We have to express and communicate our needs, and sometimes say no. Sometimes we have to say no, and we have to risk maybe disappointing somebody. You know what? But it's better to disappoint somebody. They're going to experience the pinch for like a minute, and then they're going to forget about it. Whereas if you say yes, and you have that tiny moment of satisfaction of, yeah, I said yes, I can do everything, but then you're going to suffer for the next 2 weeks because you have too much on your plate. Yeah, better to just give them a small pinch and say no don't give them a physical pinch, but you know, than have yourself suffer and feel that resentment and eventually potentially even burnout. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. Please like, comment, share if this was useful on setting boundaries in personal relationships and professional settings. I hope you're loving our 45 Days to Adulting Countdown. We're counting down every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. Another adulting topic up until April 1st, which is when enrollment opens for Rise the membership. It's closed right now, and we are opening it up again for new members April 1st. And we're so excited. That's why we're doing this countdown. We hope you're loving it. And yeah, have a great rest of your day and a great week ahead. Bye, guys.